Welcome to the Wired for Success podcast, your show for ambitious, mission-driven entrepreneurs who want to build million-dollar businesses without sacrificing their health, relationships, or happiness, who understand that in order to build their empire, they need a solid foundation, and that the more they are thriving, the more their business is thriving too. This show brings you the very best from science, self-development, and entrepreneurship to set you up for sustainable success. Hi, I'm Claudia Garbutt, the scientist turned mindset and high-performance coach for entrepreneurs, and I help you get wired for success. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to share something that has been an absolute game changer for me lately. As you might know, all your behavior is driven by two main components, your physiology and your psychology. So if your body is run down because you eat crappy food, you don't exercise, and you don't sleep, well, you can't really expect to deliver your best work. So that's the physiology part. Think of it as the engine that enables your work. If you don't take good care of that engine, it will break down eventually. On the other hand, even if you eat a healthy diet and you exercise 5 times a week, but you're constantly feeling anxious, overwhelmed, and you just can't break free from your negative thought spirals, again, you won't be able to deliver your best work. That's the psychology part of the equation. So whenever you're trying to create a profound shift in your state or a lasting change in your behavior, you will want to look at those two main components and figure out how to nudge them in the right direction. Both parts are essential and they are linked by intricate feedback loops, so you want to make sure you pay attention to both parts. But sometimes, one of them is just so much easier to nudge in the direction that you want it to go, and it therefore makes sense to start there. So let me illustrate what I mean by giving you an example. You know those days when you just can't seem to get into the groove? You're trying to focus, you're trying to be productive, but something is just not clicking. Yeah, I've been there too. A couple of months ago, I noticed that my energy levels were kind of low and I had a hard time concentrating during the day. And I wasn't quite sure what was going on. I hadn't really made any big changes to my routines. And I thought, well, it might just be a winter thing induced by, not enough sunlight or something. And funnily enough, that was about the time when the guys from Magic Mind reached out to me because they were interested in a collaboration. Now, if you run a top podcast, you get lots of emails from people who want something from you. So in the beginning, I was a little standoffish. I mean, who are those guys? To be honest, I hadn't heard of Magic Mind before. So I did a little digging and discovered that Magic Mind is the world's first productivity drink. And it has acquired quite a big following and lots of amazing testimonials from happy customers. Well, next, I had a look at the ingredients. And it sounded really good. A great mix of ingredients that support your energy metabolism and ingredients that help your body reduce stress. What can I say? It looked legit. And I mean, Joe Rogan had it on his podcast and the Kardashians are drinking it. You can't ask for more in terms of credibility, right? So the fact that they were interested in a collaboration was kind of flattering, but still, I hadn't tried their product for myself and I wasn't going to promote something that I hadn't tried myself. Since they got me curious, I agreed to test the product to see what I think about it. Now, you can either drink it alongside your morning coffee or you replace your morning coffee with it. I decided to drink it alongside my morning cup of joe. Now, call me a skeptic, but despite the hype, I didn't really expect to notice much. What I noticed pretty quickly, though, was the promised increase in energy level, which was awesome, especially since it wasn't like the coffee high that often makes me jittery and nervous because I'm quite sensitive to caffeine. It was more of a longer lasting energy boost without the caffeine crash. And after drinking it every morning for 4 days, I noticed an additional benefit. I felt alert, but very calm at the same time. Now that's awesome, right? I had an important interview that day and a lot of stressful things going on in my personal life, things that had me worried that I would not be able to focus and concentrate during the interview. But to my surprise, I was able to stay calm and focused, and the interview went really, really well. Phew! It's like my mind is clearer, sharper, and I'm ready to tackle whatever the day throws at me. So that's awesome. And honestly, being alert and calm is the best state you can be in if you would like to increase your productivity. That's the sweet spot of nervous system activation that you want to aim for. because this is where the magic happens, when you have enough energy and you can focus it. Because that's very important too, right? If you have a ton of energy, but you can't focus that energy, then you're just bouncing all over the place like a toddler on a sugar high. Now, what's the magic inside this little magic shot, you might ask? Well, let me break it down for you. So, Magic Mind is packed with all natural ingredients sourced from the best suppliers out there. We're talking about matcha for extended release caffeine, Bacopa monnieri for improved attention span and memory, ashwagandha for reduced stress and anxiety, and so much more. It's like a powerhouse of goodness in every sip. So that clearly was a case where it was easier to shift my state in the desired direction by going down the physiology route. And all it took was the addition of a delicious shot to my morning routine. Don't you just love those easy fixes? I wouldn't be sharing this with you if I didn't truly believe in this product. Magic Mind has been a game changer for me, and I know it can do the same for you. Whether you're a busy parent, an entrepreneur, or just someone looking to boost their productivity, Magic Mind has got you covered. I'm super proud that they decided to partner with me and sponsor this episode. If you want to experience the magic for yourself, you can get it at magicmind.com/wiredfs. That's magicmind.com/WIREDFS. And if you use the code WIREDFS20, again, that's WIREDFS20, you can get up to 56% off your first subscription or 20% off a one-time purchase. Trust me, it's worth it. And by the way, if you want to make the most out of this discount code, get the 30-pack because it's the best value. They're also one of the few companies with a 100% money-back guarantee, no questions asked. There's really no risk. So if you don't like it, they will just refund in 3 to 4 hours. Now, without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Wired for Success podcast, where we talk about all things science, self-development, and entrepreneurship that help you get to that next level of success in your life and business. And my guest today is online high-performance health coach, podcast host, and certified nutritionist Adrian McDonnell. With a rich background that transitioned from primary school teaching to empowering nearly 700 clients across 5 continents, Adrian's multifaceted expertise offers profound insight into the realms of health and fitness. As the host of the Lifestyle Lifters show, Adrian makes complex concepts accessible, and his insights not only inspire but also equip listeners with practical strategies for enhancing their health and fitness journey. So welcome, Adrian, and thank you so much for taking the time to talk today.
Wow, Claudia. I really appreciate that intro. Absolutely phenomenal. And again, privileged to be here. Thanks so much for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Oh, me too. Now, Adrian, it seems like we have a ton in common. Not many people know this about me, but I actually started to study to become a high school teacher as well for biology and chemistry before I changed directions to focus more on the biology side because I just thought it was so fascinating. So I'm curious, why did you decide to become a teacher in the first place? And why did you change your career path later on? What were some of those key moments and, thoughts that shaped that decision?
Interesting. Yeah. So when I did my Leaving Cert, which is basically the final exam you do when you leave high school to go into college, I was 5 points short to becoming a physical education or a PE teacher because at the time I was really sporty. I was really into that. And I thought that was my only pathway or segue to do something but unfortunately I got 5 points short. So my second choice was to become a elementary school teacher, a primary school teacher. I did that for four years. I studied in college for 4 years. And the funny thing was, after we finished college, 4 years in, before we officially went into the big working world, we spent a summer in America, in California. We traveled all of the West Coast. And when I got to the West Coast, we came across a place called Muscle Beach in LA. And in Muscle Beach in LA, the sun was shining, beautiful beaches, really friendly people. And we saw these guys and they were in obviously great physical shape and they were working out. And I kind of wondered, like, that looks really fun, but like, what's their job? What's their actual job? Like, what do they actually do? Until I didn't realize that, it's actually a thing that you become an online fitness coach where you can basically have location freedom, time freedom. You can do what you want, when you want, where you want. And that just planted a seed for me, like, wow, if they can do it, I didn't say I can't do it. I said, how can I do it? Because by just posing that question, it just got me thinking in my mind that if they can do it, you know what, I'm no different at all. So before I ever taught a day in my life officially as a primary school teacher, I had a seed in my mind that it wasn't really a career that I felt fully passionate about. So instead of just kind of being passive, what I did was I would have taught during the day, got my certification in personal training, and I basically made sure that my commute to and from work, 40 minutes each way, was like a library on wheels. I'm listening to books, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm self-education, getting up before school to, study all things training, nutrition, teach during the day, coach clients in the evening. And I just had that seed, I had that vision of what I wanted. And it really all started on that day in LA in Muscle Beach back 8-9 years ago at this stage.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, how difficult was that transition in the end? And what were some of the, say, most profound mindset shifts that you needed to make in order to make that new direction work for you?
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Well, I didn't just quit and say in the morning, right, I'm just going to become a full-time online high performance health coach. It did come over time. So I probably taught for 3 years plus before I just had the confidence that, okay, my quote unquote, my main job or my main hustle was a primary school teacher. And when I was able to match that level of income with my quote unquote, my side hustle, which Gary Vee, a term he sometimes used, that just gave me the confidence that, okay, if I'm only giving this 40-50% of my time and attention, how much better could I be if I didn't have the distraction of going to school and obviously preparing everything on that front? So that's when I went all in. So I'll never forget my last day of primary teaching. It was a day after my mum's birthday. And I came home and she started crying because she was there looking at her son leaving a stable permanent job, a few people raising their eyebrows, a steady paycheck every fortnight. But I just backed myself. And I think a lot of that would have come from, like, first of all, training, because I started my own journey out of insecurity, if I'm being honest. I didn't really like what I saw in the mirror. I had a lot of imperfections and I just wanted to change. And that just, seeing the change I can make in myself, it just really escalated my self-confidence. And then that caused me to back myself that bit more. And then I started reading books like Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within, Jack Canfield's Success Principles. Just listen to all of these books, and they really just help build the mindset and made me realize that if you back yourself, if you believe in yourself, anything is possible. So that was kind of the mindset shift. And then the actual career-wise, when my quote-unquote side hustle was leveling or matching my level of income as a primary school teacher, that's when I'd said, right, it's time to go all in and do this full-time.
That makes sense. Now, you already mentioned that you always enjoyed fitness and sports and stuff, but why are health and fitness topics that are so close to your heart? Is there anything like a deeper meaning for you, especially? Any stories that come to mind?
I just think because people just think that, like, when you're going on this journey, that it's just the physical transformation. It's how you look. It's seeing yourself more confident. But for me, it's the physical transformation is 10%. It's the mentality. It's the mindset. It's the person you become along the way. And just building that mindset, building that mentality, you'll realize that you'll discover a part of your brain you never even thought was there. The more you push yourself, and if you set, big goals for yourself that you never once thought was possible, when you actually break that ceiling, you realize that you're just setting a lot of limitations on yourself. And I've so much more to go in my physical journey. Like, I feel I haven't even started yet, but even just some of the stuff I've been able to do, if you told me that a few years back, I wouldn't have said it was possible. But again, it's just like, it's that self-confidence. It bleeds into other areas of your life. Then all of a sudden now you're more productive at work. You're no longer relying on the morning coffee to get you up out of bed. You have a bit more of a spring in your step. You notice that your energy levels are better. You don't have that, post midday slump after lunchtime at 2 or 3 o'clock. You're more energetic in your relationship when you're back home with your partner or your spouse or whoever. It just has this compounding effect into other areas of your life. So there's much more to it, in my opinion, than just the sets and just the reps in the gym.
That is so true. And I love that you work holistically and that you focus on mindset and healthy habits as well, because that's exactly what I focus on too. Because I think that mindset is really the driver for everything that we do and ultimately determines the actions that we take. And the actions that we take on a consistent basis are the ones that really shape our lives and determine our results. So, how do you think about that?
100%. Yeah, we are what we repeatedly do. There's a great saying. Therefore, excellence isn't act. It's just a habit. So,
So true.
absolutely with you on that. And just look, when it comes to building habits, it's just some people they try to go from 0 to 100 straight away and ramp it up too quickly. But often, what it just is, it's just like dialing in a few essential habits. And I would say like 3 essential habits for anyone listening. The first one is just plan and prepare. Like plan, prepare in advance. What I call it with my clients is our Sunday sermon, that you map out your week in advance. Okay, what days do you plan on training? And just setting a rule for your food that something as simple as, look, you don't need to have it all calculated out. You don't need to have a weighing scale, a kitchen scales for everything, but just not going to bed without knowing what you're going to eat the following day. Because if you leave it by chance and you just wait until you're hungry when you eat, we all know what happens then. You're ravenous. You go for the quickest, most convenient, tastiest thing, which probably isn't so good for a waistline, but it might taste quite good. So just having a plan, having a bit of preparation with your training, not winging it in the gym and just going in and like doing whatever you feel like every single day. Have something written down, and the worst plan on paper is still as good as the best plan that's not followed. So something you can actually adhere to. So that's habit number 1, plan and prepare. Habit number 2, I would just say, is prioritize your plate. Like there's a lot of different diets out there, Claudia, when it comes to high carb, low carb, paleo, no carb, keto, all of these different methods. But if you understand the principles, you can choose your own methods. And what most people don't realize is a lot of these diets, 90% of them are in common. They probably prioritize single ingredient whole foods. They usually have a source of protein at every single meal. And then it's the other 10% that people argue over that don't make that whole lot of a difference in the grand scheme of things. So what I would say for anyone who you don't really want to follow a diet, you just want something more sustainable, think of your plate and use my 3x3 method, that divide your plate into a third, and 1/3 you want a lean protein. So lean protein with your chicken breast, it'll be something like steak, it'll be something like salmon, good lean source, whole source of protein. The other third, a clean carb. So a clean carb, something like boiled rice, potatoes, all of those good foods that we all like. And then the final third will be fiber, your veggies. So something like obviously your greens, whatever way you want to break that down. But something like a lean, clean, and a green, it's a nice way to partition and break up your plate. And all of a sudden now, you're not following a diet, but you're getting protein and you're getting fiber and you're getting carbs in. And just a simple way to diet in your nutrition. The last tip, what I'd come with building habits, so you plan, prepare, prioritize your plate, it's sleep. And I know a lot of high performers are listening to this, Claudia, and they're probably type A, where they feel tired and wired going to bed, and they've got 101 different things in their mind. They're answering emails and they're taking calls. Sleep, though, it's like, it's probably one of the most underrated things that anyone can do just to improve your overall, not even just your body composition, but just your overall performance at work. We all know that we feel and function better after a good night's sleep. So if you can just have a good sleep routine, and a little tip I'll give everyone is just 10-3-2-1 rule. 10 hours before bed, try to reduce or eliminate caffeine. 2 or 3 hours before bed, try to stop eating. And 1 hour before bed, dim the lights and try to stop working. Just something small, something simple like that. But I promise you, it will make a big, big compounding difference when you start implementing it.
Those are great tips. Thank you so much for sharing. Now,
Yeah.
again, I'm always curious what other people are doing to stay in that high performance zone. So can you walk us through a typical day in your life? How does your day start?
Yeah. How does my day start? So I'm one of those that early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise. I think isn't that something that Arnold said? So I like to get up around 5:15 in the morning, and I'll typically have started work by 6 a.m.ish. So I kind of take that first 40 minutes for myself, where obviously you get change. I listen to some form of like a Bob Proctor or a Tony Robbins while I just go through my morning routine. Nothing too extreme. I usually just do like a bit of visualization, a bit of mindfulness, and then get straight into work. That first block in the morning, that's when I feel I'm most productive. So I typically don't eat in that period. I'll just get straight into work, try to do anywhere from 2-3 hours of what we call deep work, just uninterrupted deep work. You're focusing on money later tasks that's going to move the business forward. By then my head is usually fried and I need to take a break. So that's when I'll usually have breakfast, and then I'll get a coffee, I'll walk to the gym, and I'll exercise. It just helps release the stress, release those good endorphins, and then I'll usually get back to work block 2, have some lunch, and work block 3. So I usually have 3 work blocks in the day broken up between a workout, maybe a walk, and some food.
Super interesting. Now, you all know that developing those healthy routines when you're at home is one thing, but what can people do to stay fit when they have to travel a lot? Do you have any tips?
Yeah. What I call it is my easy to eat out and tone up while you travel guide. I know it's not the easiest. And just again, going back to what was your first habit? It was just planning in advance. Like if you know what city you're going to and you know where you're staying, just even do a bit of research. Is there a local gym nearby? If not, no worries at all. You can still do a bodyweight workout. What I would say for a lot, like I just had a consultation call with someone earlier on today, and she was saying that she's brilliant until that something happens where she travels or she has to go to work. And then when she breaks that routine, she finds it so hard to get back into it. So many guys say the same thing. So there's a great story in James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, a fantastic book, by the way, for anyone, of a guy who lost over 100 pounds in 9 months, not by doing one 30-minute workout, but by doing 6 5-minute workouts. And what he didn't build a whole lot of muscle or lose a whole lot of belly fat in that time, what he did do is master the art of showing up and being consistent. So what I would say for anyone, whether you have a gym, you don't have a gym, just keep that routine you were doing while you're back at home consistent when you're away, even if it's just a 5-minute workout, just simply because it's going to be so much easier to get back into that routine. So that will be in the exercise front. If there's a gym, all the better. You can access that. If not, try do something with your body weight and just walk more. From a nutrition standpoint, and this applies whether you're eating out at restaurants, where you're traveling on the go, my GBBS model. So with your protein, try to get your protein grilled or baked. So like something like grilled chicken, baked, a baked steak, something like that. What you really want to watch out for in the restaurant menu is the added oils. So like, deep fried stuff, they're things you want to try to minimize, just simply because those added oils add hundreds of extra calories. So grilled or baked protein. Then for your carbohydrates, boiled or steamed. So boiled potatoes, steamed rice, steamed veggies. Again, ideally you don't want the fried chips, you don't want the mashed potatoes, or at least try to minimize those, because again, how has the food been cooked? Through lots of oils, lots of butter, and they're adding extra calories. And the final thing is, if you wanted your sauce, just ask for your sauce on the side or your dressing. Because typically when people put it over on top, again, it's just those extra calories. So it's just a simple way. Think of how the food has been cooked. Try to do some form of movement, because all movement is medicine.
So true. Thanks for sharing. Now, do you have any bad habits that you're still struggling with? And if so, do you have some strategies that you use to work on them?
Oh, brilliant question. Fantastic question. I would say boredom / late night eating. That was definitely something where, like after a hard day at work and you just want to freaking have a bit more chocolate, or you want to get a bit of ice cream, and you're like, I deserve this. I worked hard. And part of your brain wants you to do it, and the other part knows you probably shouldn't do it. So a little tip that I've been using quite effectively is, after my final meal in the evening, I'll brush my teeth and use mouthwash.
Yes, I do.
You do that as well?
Yes. Because once you brush your teeth, you don't eat anything.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same. And like, I'm sure for a lot of people listening, it's like, typically that's like what I call the danger zone, like after 8 o'clock in the evening, where you're more so craving the chips rather than the carrots. So I try to brush my teeth so I don't do too much damage late at night.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, late in the evening, you've kind of run out of willpower, because willpower is a limited resource, and you've used it up during the day. And then you're like, kind of, temptation is there. So how can we avoid the temptation, right? And those are the steps. Exactly. Make it harder to do the bad habit, make it easier to do the right thing.
100%. Yeah. Going back to James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Absolutely.
Yes. Now let's keep talking about diet and nutrition. What are the most common diet misconceptions that you have noticed in your clients over the years?
probably that there's like one single best diet for fat loss, or there's one single essential food for fat loss. Fat loss is actually quite simple. It's energy in, calories out. People all heard it, but like it is somewhat true. It's kind of like your finances. If you overspend your finances by the end of the week, you're putting yourself in debt. Calories are the exact same. So I would just say there's no single best diet for fat loss, for building muscle. Once you're in a calorie deficit, you will lose weight. And then
Right.
probably the second one being spot and reduce belly fat. And this is an unfortunate one. You see a lot of people, they do like, how do I tone up my core, or how do I get a six pack? And they'll just do like a lot of crunches and stuff. Sure, those exercises are great for building muscle, but again, everyone has a six pack once you get your body fat levels low enough. You get your body fat levels low enough by controlling your nutrition and being in a calorie deficit. So I would say there too, there's no single best diet for fat loss, and you cannot spot reduce belly fat, unfortunately.
That's so true. I mean, as they say, abs are made in the kitchen, right? So
Absolutely, yeah. No, it really does. And a lot of the food does a lot of the heavy lifting there, Claudia.
yeah, probably more than exercise in this case.
100%. 100%.
Now, what does your own diet look like? What do you eat, in what quantities, and when do you eat?
Yeah, good question. I typically have 4 meals a day, and every single meal contains one element of protein. And just a little tip for anyone when it comes to actually nutrition. I don't like using the word diet. There's negative connotations. I feel like I'm not really on a diet. It's just more so a lifestyle for me. But something I try to include is a plant and a protein at every meal. So a plant is either a piece of fruit or a veggie, and a protein, as we're saying, it's a lean source of protein. So it could be like, protein oats in the morning. It could be some form of salmon. I might have some meat and veg there. There's always some element of plant and some element of protein in there. What I do is, it works well for me, 4 meals usually. So I'll have a breakfast, I'll have my post-workout meal, and then I'll have lunch and I'll have dinner. And that's typically how I break off my food. But there's a plant, there's a protein at every single meal. It's quite simple. And for me, like, some people love variety and having like a lot of different foods every single day. For me, I'm a big believer in just consistency. And sometimes people try to overcomplicate things and they focus on having variety before they have consistency built in. What I would recommend for anyone is be consistent with a set 5 to 10 meals that you can adhere to and stick to for your breakfast and for your lunch. And if you're consistent with those, then you can just add a bit of variety by changing up the flavor. You might go for chili one day, you might go for curry the other day. The foods are more or less the same. It's just the flavor that actually you change.
Oh, I need variety.
Yeah, really.
But I totally understand where you're coming from. Now,
Yeah.
do you count calories when you do that, or do you just follow your gut instinct?
So at this stage, I've counted calories for a couple of years, so I can nearly do it intuitively at this stage. I usually count once a week just to make sure my eyeballs aren't lying, because it can be, just to make sure everything is on track. But for the most part now at this stage, I have a good idea of what I'm intaking without having to count. However, it's like everything. It's like a degree. And I do think there's a lot to be said for everyone. Like, you can partition your plate, what I mentioned earlier on. But I do think if you put yourself through that knowledge, that education, you'll actually be surprised. Like, wow, 1 tablespoon of olive oil has 120 calories. You mean that 2 tablespoons of this peanut butter is 250 calories? Or I can eat all of these veggies and it's only got 100 calories. You're not going to know that until you just put yourself through the process of counting calories. And it doesn't, like, people, one common objection I sometimes get is, oh, I don't have time. Like, how much longer does it take for you to get out of the kitchen scales, to put it to 0, and just to weigh out your portion of oatmeal in the morning? It takes probably 10 extra seconds, but that can go a long way just to give you a bit of education, knowledge on when it comes to actually calories. So I'd recommend for anyone, if you haven't started, there's a good app called MyFitnessPal, and it's quite convenient just for giving you at least a rough estimate of what you're taking in, because again, that's going to be huge when it comes to dropping body fat or building muscle.
That's so interesting, because I've never done the counting calorie things. And
Wow.
it's just, I think sometimes if you have a good intuition,
100%.
that works just as well. Now, I'm going to ask a selfish question here, because I know a lot of people want to lose weight, but right now I'd actually like to gain, say, 3 to 4 kilograms in lean body mass. So
Amazing.
I'd like to gain that in a healthy way. So what are your suggestions in terms of diet and exercise, or nutrition and exercise, to gain lean body mass?
Yeah. So when it comes to, first of all, when it comes to losing, a good target for everyone is decrease your body weight by about 2 to 4% per month. Okay. When it comes to gaining and muscle, it's actually a slower process, and you only
Yeah.
want a gradual increase of, oh, right. It's really tough. Like a gradual increase of maybe 1 to 2% per month of your body weight. So for a lot of people, that might just equate to like 0.3 kilograms or 0.5 pounds maximum per week. So what that looks like from an exercise standpoint, here's the thing. There's not much of a difference between training to lose body fat and training to build muscle. Most of the heavy lifting there is going to be done from your diet. You're obviously going to
Right.
eat a bit more if you want to build muscle. You're going to eat a bit less if you want to lose belly fat. Okay. But with building muscle, the most important thing is actually your training, and not just your training, but the number of hard sets. You have to give your body the stimulus in order to get the response. So if you're training, look, you don't need to freaking fry yourself and completely train to failure. But if you're training within 1 or 2 reps in reserve, where if someone is looking at you and, you know, that last rep or two was a bit of a struggle, it was a bit of a push, but you got it. That's going to give your body the stimulus in order to get the response. When it comes to frequency, then like you can train each body part. Ideally, try to train each body part 2 times a week, so you don't just fry yourself in one single session, and just break up your volume, whatever suits best. There's no single one best workout split, but usually 2 times a week per body part works well. And that's going to depend, though, on how many times you can train a week, Claudia. So if someone is listening, they can train 4 times a week. You might do upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. Whereas if you can only train twice, you get better bang for your buck just doing 2 full body, or 3 times maybe 3 full body, or an upper, lower full body. You know, something along those lines. But there are some principles for you.
Sounds great. I'll have to look into that. Right now, I'm doing a combination of some high intensity HIIT type Tabata type stuff, then resistance band training, then a little bit like, what else am I doing? Pilates, so for core and strength.
For core, okay.
Stability, some yoga for flexibility and mobility. So I'm just doing a combination of lots of different things, but I think it doesn't really help with the gaining weight. So I probably have to.
Yeah, you probably get better bang for your buck doing maybe just more traditional strength training.
Yeah,
And
probably.
there's a common misconception that a lot of women in particular think that like weights make them bulky, but what how I deal with that is I'll ask any girl, like, show me someone you want to look like, and they'll describe them. Oh, like, what do you like about them? Oh, they're nice and toned, they're nice in shape. But when you think about it, what gives them that shape and that tone? It's not their bones, it's having muscle in the absence of belly fat. And you build muscle by lifting weights, you lose body fat by being in a calorie deficit. So takeaway being no need to worry or fear about lifting weights also.
True. Now, what about supplements? Do you take any? And if so, which ones and why do you take them or don't?
So yeah, I take protein powder just simply because it can be hard sometimes to hit, like, I'm roughly having, I don't know, 200 grams of protein. It can be hard sometimes to get that all through single ingredient meat and meat and eggs and so on. So I take protein powder, I take creatine. And I would say for everyone listening to this, because you mentioned, a lot of them are high performers, of course, that I would recommend 2 to 3 before bed to aid with your sleep. So the first one will be magnesium citrate, get it in powdered form. The second one will be ashwagandha, and the third one will be zinc. They can just help you wind down a small bit and improve the quality of your sleep. So they be 3, I think, which you listening to the show could benefit from.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually a topic that I changed my mind about, because I used to think that you should be able to get all your vitamins and essential nutrients through a healthy diet. But I've come to believe that that's probably not true. And even though I try to stick to a pretty healthy diet, with the occasional exceptions, because I think that food should still be fun and something to be
100%.
enjoyed. But I noticed that it really makes a difference once I tested a few of those supplements. And especially the omega-3 is one that probably most people could benefit from. B vitamins is something that a lot of people are really low on. Vitamin D is another one. And also some of those adaptogens work really well for me. So
interesting. I haven't actually looked into any of the adaptogens yet.
Yeah, you have to try them.
Awesome. Awesome.
Test them and see if it made a huge difference for me, mood and energy wise. Just more stress tolerance is what I've noticed the most. And I mean, during recent decades, I mean, I said that I want to gain some weight, but most people, as I said, and as you've probably noticed in your clients, they are trying to lose weight because we are seeing the rising numbers of obese people. And why do you think that is? And what can we all do to just cultivate a healthier relationship with food and avoid
Yeah,
getting into that stage?
I think a lot of it is convenience.
Yeah.
Like it's never been easier now. Like I know a lot of your listeners are in the US. When I lived there as well, like honestly, it's like you can go to one of the shops and you can get like, I don't know, a hot dog and a burger for like $5, and then you go to Whole Foods and you try to get something quote unquote healthy and it's like 3 or 4x the price. So I think
Mm.
convenience is a big thing. And secondly, food environment. Like this is really the silent sauce of everything, because if a food is in your house, sooner or later it's going to be eaten. Whether
Yeah.
it's by you or by someone else, it's going to be there. So if you don't want to slip, don't go to slippery places. And if you know that your weakness is the bar chocolate, the biscuits in the evening, at least increase that resistance by not buying them in your weekly food shop. And if you really do crave them, make yourself walk or drive to the shop. Because just what you're doing there is you're delaying that gratification. Because we all have those moments of weakness. Everyone's human. And it happens every now and then. And that's okay once you learn from it. But if you can just optimize your environment so that it's easier to make quote unquote healthier choices, and you add more resistance for those processed foods, that's a simple little hack to help you make progress in whatever fitness goals you're pursuing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I try to not go shopping when I'm hungry, because that's another one
Yeah.
of those things. It's like when you're hungry, you just buy everything, right? And I try not to go shopping when I'm already very tired and stressed out, because that's another one of those. If you plan ahead and you try to go shopping after you've had something to eat, and then you stay away from all the temptations, so you're not
Oh,
tempted again when you're home.
it's even funny the way the layout of supermarkets. They always start off with the fruit and veggies to kind of
Yes.
like give you some positive affirmations that, oh, I made some healthy food choices. And then as you go closer into the aisles, that's when we typically add the chocolate. And just a little tip even on shopping is try to shop the perimeters. When you think about the layout of a supermarket, usually the perimeter is where you're going to get the lean, clean, and green. Lean protein, clean carbs, and your greens. So if you can try stay away typically from the middle aisles as well, it's a simple little way just to navigate through the shop through your weekly food shop.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, we all know that being overweight is not healthy. Overweight is not healthy. Yet sometimes it's just so hard to motivate people to act upon this realization. So, how do you approach the goal setting part for fat loss and weight loss?
I think you have to have a vision and you have to have a really strong why. And you have to sit with yourself and realize why you really want to do this, because the person who just wants to tone up or lose a bit of weight without really any real meaning to it, they're probably not going to want to get up on a Monday morning when it's dark outside and the coffee machine is broken, it's leg day. Whereas the person who visits the doctor and the doctor tells them that, do you want to walk down the aisle on your daughter's wedding day 10 years from now? Because if you do, you have to make a change. He's got a much stronger why and a much stronger motivator to get going. So you have to be clear in your why behind this. And if you have a strong enough why, no matter how tough or how difficult times are, you'll always find a way to do it. Because motivation is temporary. We all feel motivated every now and then. But what happens when that motivation is gone? That's when you'll tap into your why, the real reason why you're doing this. So that's what I would say is establish the baseline. I'll always try to find out why someone wants to do what they're doing. We have a consultation call. And that just makes it very clear then whether or not they're genuine about this. And look, it doesn't have to be like, it can just be to feel confident on a wedding day or to perform better at work. If that's a strong enough motivator and driver for you to get you going, all the best. But definitely starts with just the reason you're doing it, and then motivation will follow once you start seeing results.
Yeah, and I think once you got that motivation going and you've established the habit, I mean, the cool thing about habits is that then you really crave the action. Like then you don't want to miss your workout anymore.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. That's when it just becomes automatic for you, where
Yes,
you'd rather do it than not do it, as you were saying,
exactly.
100%. And it becomes enjoyable as well. It becomes enjoyable. That's the funny thing. Like your days, your productivity, everything will be much, much better. I just know for a fact, and I'm sure you can agree, that no one really ever regretted doing a workout afterwards, even if you didn't always feel like it, but it always puts you in a better mood. It always puts you in a
Absolutely.
better mood. Yeah.
So true. Now, let's say your client has the necessary awareness and motivation to embark on their new health journey. So, what are the next steps? What would you do with
Brilliant
them?
question. Yeah. So it's just something actually me and my team were implementing this week. Like, I love aesthetic based goals are usually what most people focus on. Like, I want to reach X weight by X time for X holiday, X wedding, X event. But I'm a big believer now in setting performance based goals. Like, someone said he runs a business to run a sub 20-minute 5K. Like,
Hmm.
that's going to push you to your extreme. You got to have your diet on point to do that. You got to have your training on point to do that. But we're putting the focus on your performance. And guess what? When your performance improves, naturally enough, you'll start to look better. So I really like setting just performance-based goals, which are stretch goals, something that a client currently isn't capable of achieving, but it's not too far away that they just get demotivated. But it's enough just to stretch them a small bit out of their comfort zone to motivate them to keep going. And that looks different for every individual client. But I like those performance-based goals, I think, in particular, because sometimes we put so much of an emphasis on the scale weight. And the scale it is in our control to some degree, but a lot of it then can be external. Like, you ate a late meal last night, your salt intake is higher than normal, your stress levels are higher than normal. But if you focus on the process of who you need to become and the process-based goals of getting there, in my opinion, they're better than just sole outcome-based goals. So I really like performance-based goals like that, just to keep our clients engaged, to keep them motivated.
Yeah, I like the action-based goals as well, where you just say, okay, I can control how many times per week I work out. I might not be able to control what results I get from those workouts, right? So if you focus just on the action instead of the result, it often helps to stay motivated because that feels like it's more in your zone of control.
100%, 100%. And a mistake I fell into in the past was like just focusing too much on the end destination. But an
Yeah.
analogy I'll use is, imagine you're climbing a mountain and you started at the bottom and you went all the way up and you were tired and your legs are fatigued, but eventually you got to the top. And someone else started at the bottom, they got a helicopter to the top, and you both met at the summit. The view is the exact same, but the journey and the destination you went through is much different. And that's the real reward in this. And I know it can be tough for someone if you don't have much of a baseline to start, but honestly, just document your journey, take photos, and enjoy the process. Because if you don't enjoy the process, you're going to feel the exact same way as you do now when you quote unquote reach that destination.
Yeah, so true. Now, we've already talked about nutrition quite a bit, but what does your exercise routine look like?
Yeah, so I train each body part 2 times a week, and I typically, at the moment, so my goal is this year, I want to get back, I want to do a sub 20-minute 5K, and I really want to build
Oh.
stronger legs and stronger glutes. So I'm actually prioritizing more leg-based work, which is unusual for guys, because most guys, they prefer more upper body work. But I do, yeah. So I do a variation of a push, a pull, and a leg routine with some cardio intertwined in there. So pushing movements are typically your chest, your shoulders, your thighs. Pulling movements are usually your back muscles, and your legs are your legs. But I try to implement some cardio there as well, just because I want to be all round fit. I've gone, I used to go a bit too far in one extreme where I was more weight dominant, but I just think being cardiovascular fit and also physically fit, it is important to have that combination of both.
Oh, that is so true. And that is something that I've changed over the last few years as well, because I love running. So
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the last few years, I got into long distance running up to
Amazing.
50K. But what I
Yes.
noticed at some point was just that even though I was fit in that sense and I could run those distances, like there was the strength was missing, and there were so many other aspects of fitness and health that I kind
Yeah.
of neglected. So now
Yeah.
I'm starting to incorporate more
Yeah.
different routines just to be a bit more balanced.
Yeah, 100%. I love that hybrid athlete approach where you're physically cardiovascular fit, you're fit enough. And I think for a lot of people listening, you probably want to be fit enough to go for a 5 or a 10K run or a 5 mile run and also look like you lift in the gym. And I think
Yeah,
that's the perfect combination. Like, look, if you want to go extreme, if you want to go bodybuilding, you probably want to scale back in the cardio. But I don't think anyone wants to go that extreme. And then if you want to be an ultra marathon runner where you're doing these ultra endurance events, you're probably not going to be the strongest person in the gym. But I think for a lot of people, we just want that balance of both. You want to be physically fit without being out of breath going up a flight of stairs. And I think
exactly.
balancing, incorporating strength training and cardio, it's a nice way to go about doing that.
Yeah, and I've noticed that the 10K is probably more like the distance that it keeps you fit, it
Yeah,
keeps you healthy, and
100%.
you don't get into those distances where, well, when I trained for that 50K, for instance, I felt at some point I was just putting more stress on my body than
Yeah,
I wasn't staying healthy. You
yeah,
get to a point where it's not healthy anymore and you're just stressing your body
yeah,
unnecessarily. So if
yeah.
your goal is to stay healthy, it might actually be better to do less or mix it up and be more balanced. Eh,
100%.
So
Yeah. Yeah,
totally.
yeah. I like that. I like that approach. Yeah. Sometimes I like interval cardio where maybe one day you're doing like speed work and you're doing it for like, I don't know, you could do fast for maybe 15 seconds and then like a slow,
Mhm.
moderate 45 seconds. Other days you could just do a nice steady say what you're doing. But when you do go into like, I find as well, once you go running for like over maybe 90 minutes, it can become a bit
Yeah.
taxing on the body, and recovery definitely does take a toll. But on the flip side, in my opinion, and I love the gym, I love lifting weights, there is no comparison but the feeling you get after doing a longer run than a longer gym session.
Mm. Yeah, I still love the long runs.
Yeah, the runner's high, it's a real thing, right?
It is. Now, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience today that we haven't touched on so far?
I would just say on the sustainable route, set a goal in mind, but don't necessarily put a date on it, because no one ever wins at the game of fitness. We can always be fitter, you can always be healthier, you can always be stronger. But rather than just saying, I want to reach X weight by X time frame, yes, it's good to have, an estimated time frame in mind, but just make a goal of just being healthier, being a better version of yourself. And when you think about it, try to follow something that you can actually adhere to for a decade and not just a day. And that goes to your training, that goes to your nutrition, that goes to everything. Don't focus on getting to the finish or the start line. The finish line, just focus on getting to the start line. And literally starting is always the hardest part. But imagine now, if you're just to do 3 workouts a week, that's 150 across the space of a year.
Yeah.
Small actions compound to huge results. So gradually ease into it. Don't go from 0 to 100, and just make a goal of being healthier and fitter. And you'll get there eventually, provided you do not quit.
Perfect. I couldn't agree more. Now, where can our listeners find you online if they would like to learn more about you or connect with you?
Yeah, awesome. So if you want to learn more about our high performance health program, or you want this all laid out in a customized program, you can pop me a connection request on LinkedIn. So I'm at Adrian McDonnell on LinkedIn. You can just let me know what your goals are, and we can set up a consultation call to see if our program is a good fit for you. Or if you're not on LinkedIn, you can just pop me an email at Adrian@Mac Lifestyle Fitness. So that's Adrian@MC Lifestyle Fitness, and just use the subject line Wired for Success. And again, just let me know what your goals are and we can see if our coaching is a good fit for you.
Fantastic. Adrian, thank you so much for sharing all those tips and insights with us today. It's been a pleasure having you on this show.
Pleasure is mine. Thanks for having me on, Claudia. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Take care and talk soon. Bye.
God bless.
Thank you so much for listening to the Wired for Success podcast. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. That's a fantastic, easy, and zero-cost way to help the show grow. Just use the link in the show notes and make my day. Want more? For quick, actionable tips and insights to guided meditations and a side of biohacking, join my inner circle and get access to exclusive subscriber-only content. Again, just use the link in the show notes to join the tribe. Thank you for your support and see you on the other side. Take care and talk soon. Bye.